In ancient India and Odayana, only realized beings were permitted to teach Dzogchen. In modern times, only those students with explicit permission from a realized Dzogchen master have that permission to teach. If you ever think you are more than just a student of the Buddha, then that is a problem. Thinking that way will only lead to misery for you and others. If you want to be a Dharma teacher, you've got a big problem. There are 3 reasons people teach. The only pure reason is because they have awakened to their fundamental nature, and sharing Dharma is a natural expression of their compassion. There is no reluctance or hesitation in the teacher in this situation. Teaching is as natural as breathing and always has positive outcomes, is always of benefit. How do you know if this is you? It isn't. If you think it is, if you think you are anything but a simple student of the Buddha, then you are suffering from a profound delusion. If you think or say you are awake, then you are more deeply asleep, more deeply deluded than anyone else. The second reason people teach is they have been called to do so by their own teachers. These teachers often have some reluctance or hesitation to teach because they know they are a mere student and would rather just practice. These teachers produce mixed results, usually beneficial, but occasionally they miss the mark. They make the odd mistake. These teachers have to watch their ego and pride. They also have to be very diligent in terms of ethics. Most importantly, they have to constantly practice. If they do this, if they prioritize their practice, be mindful of pride, and take ethics to heart, the balance will be towards benefit. These teachers will become more beneficial as time progresses, as their practice dissolves their self-clinging and opens their heart. The third reason people teach is completely impure and leads only to extremely negative results, to misery. And that reason is to fulfill a worldly desire or conform to a worldly delusion. To teach in order to feed the ego and feel special, or to gain approval, to be liked, or to be respected, is all about worldly desire and is pure poison. Oftentimes, this worldly desire is invisible. People dupe themselves into believing that they are trying to be of benefit, and they fake being reluctant or hesitant to teach. They think they are good and doing good, but they are not. They're deluded. They're just creating harm, creating deep misery and suffering. Likewise, teaching Dharma to conform to a worldly delusion is nothing but perpetuating misery. This is a somewhat new phenomena. It has emerged as a characteristic of the degenerate age. This is when people teach because they belong to groups where everyone, no matter how new to the Dharma, is encouraged to give their take or perspective on the Dharma. In these settings, everyone is a teacher and there are no real students, which means no one is learning anything. Members of these groups may be accumulating information, but their hearts are not opening up. Their egos are never challenged because there's no teacher and thus no devotion. Such environments might seem democratic and inclusive, but they're really not. They're just toxic. So, how do you know if you are ready to teach? If you are asking this question, you are not ready to teach. If you think you are ready to teach, you are not. If practice is not your priority, you are not ready to teach. If you don't have a teacher for whom you feel even the most basic devotion, you are not ready to teach. If you don't see teaching as dangerous, as something that, if you are not vigilant, might distract you from practice, might feed the ego, might lead you to compromising your ethics, then you definitely should not teach. More to the point, if you have not been given permission to teach by the person who introduced you to the true nature of mind, to natural awareness, then you should not teach. You don't have to be fully realized to teach, but you should have permission to do so from that person who first gave you a glimpse of the truth of your nature. And you should have liberation from suffering and awakening to natural awareness through practice as your sole priority. It is through practice that we awaken, not through study, not through reading, not through debate, and certainly not through teaching. So, please, if you have a desire to teach, understand that it means that you are in desperate need of a lot more practice, and reorient yourself immediately toward practice and do that practice with all your heart. It is the only thing worth doing. It is the only thing that will provide you with what you truly need: freedom from samsara and the immeasurable joy that that freedom brings. This is why, in our little Sangha, we have never given permission for anyone to teach, because practice is the sole focus of what we are doing. We are not in the teacher-making industry. There are enough half-cooked teachers in the world already. We will not contribute to making that circus bigger. We are dedicated to supporting practitioners. That is it. If you want something other than this, perhaps this is not the place for you. There is also the very simple fact that I stated at the beginning of this discussion. In ancient India and Odayana, only realized beings were permitted to teach Dzogchen. In modern times, only those students with explicit permission from a realized Dzogchen master has that permission. Though I have permission to teach, that does not make me a realized being, and so I cannot extend that permission to others. My teaching partner, Rigzin Jamyang Temple, feels exactly the same way, and he is much further along in terms of practice than me. We both feel that we are just simple students of the Buddha. For those of you from other sanghas who, like me, have the misfortune of having been called to teach by your gurus, I give you the same friendly, peer-to-peer advice. Be mindful of the poison of the ego. Be careful with your conduct, making sure to always act ethically and with kindness. And most importantly, please practice. Practice with all your heart. Make devotion the cornerstone of your life. Nothing else in this world is worth doing. Nothing.